Hi, it's Lynn Shuck with Healing and Balance, and we're going to continue to look at some rotations and the hip joint and how those interact. And I want to show you Penny's hip joint now. She's got some problems with her hips with a few screws in there, but our hips are not all built the same. This little section of your thigh bone could be longer or shorter, or this angle might be closer to 90 degrees or further away from 90 degrees. All those things can impact how your hip functions, but similarly, the hip socket, that part of your pelvis, that socket could be deeper or shallower or angled more forward or more down or more back. It's not going to be angled back, but there are going to be variations in the shapes of the bones. And with those variations in the shapes of the bones, we're not all going to move the same way at the hip joint. So what I'd like to have you look at today, let me put her away, is forward folding relative to the pelvis and these rotations. Now, if I take a forward fold the way I usually do, my feet are pelvis width because that's where I like to work, and my toes are pointed forward, outside edges parallel. When I bend over, I go so far, and I know where I feel that. But if I instead externally rotate my legs, so it looks like a dancer's first position-ish, I don't have to force my heels together, and I take that same movement, I don't actually bend as far that way. And I feel it in different parts of the back of my leg. And I come up, and similarly, I could turn my legs in, internally rotate at the hip socket, and now I have more movement. That's my body. I've taught this to groups where people turn out and have more movement, or the most movement is parallel. There's no rhyme or reason because we're all built differently. But working in these different rotations can help activate different parts of the back of the leg, especially if you're not using your forward fold in a passive way, if it's an active one. So let's take a wide forward fold, Prasarita Padottanasana, and let's work there. So we head over, my feet are parallel. And when I say work, I'm going to actively engage the legs. So I want to bend the knees a little bit to get my knees lined up with my ankles, and I'm going to lift my tailbone up, so I'm actively reaching up through the back of my leg, down through my heel, as opposed to hanging out back here with my hips behind my heels. Heels down, tailbone up, using the back of the legs, feet parallel. And I'll come up. And then I'm going to turn my feet out a little or a lot, externally rotating the legs, and I'm going to take that same movement. I'm again going to bend the knees a little bit and then try and lift the tailbone up. So I'm pressing my feet into the floor, lifting up through my tailbone, hamstrings extending. I really feel that in the back of my knees in an interesting way. Doesn't hurt, so I'm staying with it. And then I'm going to try this internally rotated. I'm quite a bit internally rotated. You might only just barely get past parallel, or parallel might be as turned in as your body is comfortable working in right now. So we head over with that internal rotation. And again, we press the feet into the ground. We lift the tailbone up. And again, we notice where that effort is being felt, how the pose feels different. Range of motion will be different in different rotations, but it's valuable to play with those. My goal with my students is to make sure you don't just set up and not know where you put your feet. Place them somewhere intentionally. And if there's one that's easy for you, maybe that's not the one you do all the time because you're already good at that. Work in the positions that are challenging, but not painful. All right, that's what I have for you today. Rotations in forward folds. Go.